Hi everyone, my name is Caitlin. I have just graduated from Stanley Lake High School in Colorado. So I'm 18 years old and I'm officially done with high school now. I'm just going to go through the list of your guys' questions and kind of answer some of them as I go. So I hope you guys find this really helpful and get some insight into our lives here in the United States. So, let's see. I first heard about when schools were closed in mid-March. We had kind of been watching the news and seeing that schools around the world were starting to close, and we were wondering, when is it going to happen here? How long do we have before our school closes? And it was pretty quick. It happened really quickly when the school shut down, and it was just like it felt very sudden. And I was really excited at first, but pretty quickly I really didn't enjoy the online learning anymore, and I missed the human interaction that school provided. I felt really isolated and alone once schools closed, and eventually it was a really hard time to not be able to finish out my last year of high school and to not get all of those experiences and that closure that most people get from high school. Um, on the next question, when I was home, I spent a lot of the day sleeping. I would, get up in the morning and do my classes, but they were all done by about noon, and I would take a nap. Um, I did a lot of running and working out as well, and then I would stay up super late, which is why I was super tired throughout later in the days. So I would stay up and I would watch Netflix or read a book or something. And eventually it just got really boring. Like, none of that stuff seemed very fun anymore. On the next question, the lockdown in Colorado, I think it lasted for about 2.5 months. And obviously, we still have certain restrictions that we are supposed to be following. There's just a lot less of them now than there were back in March when we first locked down. Our last day of school was sometime in mid-March, and it's super weird because I don't even remember that day. It just felt like a normal day to me, and we figured that we would be back in school very quickly. Um, when I had to stay at home, I definitely did miss school. For the first week, I would say I didn't. I kind of enjoyed having the time off and the break, but I did really start to miss school, and I missed seeing my friends, seeing my teachers. And just the experience of learning in a classroom. I didn't think it was nearly as fun or helpful online as it is in person. Um, the next question is about prom. Prom was canceled at our school. I know it kind of varies across the country as to whether schools canceled prom or not, or if they rescheduled or anything. But our prom was canceled, that we don't get a prom at all, which is really sad. I was really looking forward to prom, so it kind of sucks because I don't have another year of school to get to go to one. Um, and my graduation, we're supposed to have a graduation here in August, so hopefully we'll get to have the full ceremony. It'll just be a little bit delayed as to when it was supposed to be. Um, and then let's see the next question. Am I concerned about COVID-19? I would say I am pretty concerned about it. I think we see cases that are spiking and rising, and we've seen a lot of deaths. The US has the highest death toll of any other country, and it's definitely a scary prospect. I personally haven't really been affected by it. I don't know anyone that has gotten COVID, and so it makes the threat seem really weird just because it hasn't personally affected me, but I know it is something that is really serious and that I should be concerned about. Let's see. Did I enjoy studying from home? I did not. I really hated it. I think maybe if it wasn't my last year of school, I would have enjoyed it more and I would have gotten more out of it, but I was just so over school and ready to like graduate and be done that I didn't enjoy studying at all, and I didn't want to study. I barely did any work, to be quite honest, and it definitely was not my favorite way to learn. So, an extension from that, I definitely would not prefer remote learning in the future. I very much want to be back on campus, back in school, and having classes in person. I have never been homeschooled before. That's the next question. And I know a couple people that have been homeschooled actually, but it's definitely not common. Most people just go to a public school or a private school, in my area at least, or, I don't know very many people that have been homeschooled. The next question is about internet access. I do have internet access at home. I think I know I'm extremely lucky that I do have that privilege, because it would be impossible to do remote learning without that. And that's a huge disadvantage to the kids that don't have internet access at home. It's definitely a big problem. I think it varies by location. I go to a pretty well off school. Like there's most people are pretty well to do financially, and so I don't think anyone at my school particularly struggled with that issue. But across the country, it's a huge issue, and even just in like downtown Denver, which is really close to where I live, there's tons of kids that don't have internet access at home, and that is a really big problem. Let's see. The next question is about financial problems. My family, luckily, was my both of my parents were essential workers, and so they were able to keep working throughout the entire pandemic. My sister and I both lost our like part-time jobs that we had, which was really unfortunate. Those businesses were closed down, and so luckily my family wasn't very much affected by the financial crisis of the coronavirus, but I know a lot of my friends were. A lot of my friends' parents lost jobs, or had to take time off, and that was something that was really hard for them. The next question is about the lockdown. We were not allowed to go outside either. We were not allowed to go meet our friends. I guess we were allowed to go outside and exercise, but you had to be alone or with people from your household. So we weren't able to meet up with any of our friends, or really go anywhere. All the businesses were closed, and it was super boring. I spent a lot of time just outside by myself because I didn't enjoy being stuck inside in my home all day. But I really couldn't do much. I walked around, I went running, and that was about it. Or I would sit outside and like read a book, but it was nothing exciting, and I didn't get to see anyone. I know some people definitely broke the rules and did meet up with others, but that's something that was not a very good idea on their part because it allows the virus to spread more, and that's obviously the point of the lockdown, was to prevent that. Let's see. The next question is about staying in touch with my friends and family. So I saw a lot of my friends over video call. We would have Zoom chats almost every day, or we would have phone calls, and that was super nice. It made things feel a lot less isolated. My family, I live with my family, so that wasn't um, much of a struggle. We saw each other every day. And honestly, we saw each other a lot more than we were used to. So that was super weird, to me, honestly. The next question is about when schools in Colorado are supposed to open. And that one is really hard to say. They haven't really released a whole lot of information about that yet. I know my sister is 2 years younger than me, and so she's still at Stanley Lake High School. And they are planning on opening the school in the fall, like normal, except it's going to be half online and half in person, so it's not going to be totally back to normal, but hopefully the school will be opening to some extent, like normal at the normal time in August when we start our school year. The next question, what are the best subjects at Stanley Lake High School? In my opinion, my favorite subject, we had this class called Theory of Knowledge, and basically we just learned about how to think and how to like analyze different things. It was very abstract but very useful class, I thought, and I thought it was really interesting, all the different topics we got to talk about. So that was definitely my favorite subject. The next question about how do classrooms in my high school look? They looked pretty similar to classrooms in Germany, because so I went to Germany a couple years ago, um, and did a student exchange program there. So I saw all the classrooms in Germany, and honestly, the American classrooms were pretty similar. I would say my classrooms have a lot more things on the wall, like we have tons of posters, and classwork and things that we hang on the walls, that I didn't see a whole lot of in Germany. And at my school, also, we have some really old desks, and so that was definitely a difference. And they just weren't like some of the furniture at my school was not very nice. It was very old. And there's a lot of desks in most rooms. Like we have pretty big classes sometimes, so there's a lot of desks in every room. The next question is about sports. So I mean, at Stanley Lake, you can take pretty much any sport that you want. Sports are a huge commitment to play in the United States. Like you have to dedicate probably 15 to 20 hours a week to it. So, um, a lot of people choose not to do sports for that reason, but um, Stanley Lake offers a lot of different options. For example, myself, I participated in cross country, swimming, and track. But there's also things like soccer and football, basketball, baseball, softball, gymnastics. There's a pretty huge variety of different sports that you could take. Um, then the next question is about, is there a subject that every student has to take in the 12th grade? Or can you choose from all the subjects? So you have to, in 12th grade, you have to make sure that you get all of your graduation requirements figured out. Because to graduate high school, you need a list of all of these different classes that you have to take throughout your 4 years in high school. And so in 12th grade, you have to finish up whatever you haven't taken in the previous 3 years. Um, Everyone is going to have to take an English class because you need 4 years of that. And most people need to take some sort of science and some sort of math, but not necessarily. Um, most people in 12th grade also have to take economics, because that's a requirement for graduation. And if you didn't take it in an earlier year, then everyone in 12th grade pretty much has to take it. The next question is about Chromebooks. And so we do have Chromebooks at our school. The school actually started a program for everyone who is younger than my grade level. So my grade level, we never got Chromebooks, but everyone else in the school did. So I personally never had to use them in class. But I definitely did need to have a laptop to do a lot of the classwork. It just wasn't one that the school gave to me. Okay, so the next question is about, do I enjoy learning German? Yes, I definitely do. I thought the language was super interesting and I had a lot of fun learning it, and trying to speak it. I just thought it was so different from any of the other subjects that I've had to learn, and so I thought that was really fun. It's also challenging for sure. On a scale of 1 to 10, I would say it's probably about a 6 or a 7 for me. And I felt like I picked things up pretty quickly, but there were still definitely things that were hard to learn. The next question is about, do you write on paper or use your laptops in school? We do almost everything on laptops. There's occasional assignments that you have to do on paper, and we take notes on paper often, but most assignments you have to do online on your laptop. The next question is, did I have to take a bus to school or did my parents drive me? Well, when I was younger, my parents drove me, but since I got my license, I drove myself. So in the US, you can drive when you're 16 years old, and so as soon as I turned 16, I started driving myself to school, and I had my own car, which was really convenient and really nice for me to be able to get to school on my own schedule. The next question is about the size of my classes. That one really varied a lot. I had some classes that were only like 8 people, and I had others that were 35. So it was really, it just kind of depends on the class, and the school as well. I know different schools have different class sizes, depending on their teachers and students and everything. The next question is, do I already know what I want to do after school or what I want to be? The answer to that is no. I really don't have an idea yet. I'm interested in a lot of different things, but I'm not sure what I want to fully pursue at this moment. Okay, I'm gonna skip to the next subject here. So, this first question is, did something, or did a school shooting ever happen at Stanley Lake High School? No, there has never been a school shooting at Stanley Lake High School. We have had a couple threats of gun violence at our school, and those were pretty scary. We actually had a day that we closed the schools, and we didn't go to school that day, because someone had threatened that there might be a shooting that day. Um, and they just wanted to avoid that, and we closed down school, so we missed a whole day of school for that threat. Luckily, there was never anything that actually happened, but there's definitely been like some scary moments and threats with that. The next question is, what do you think about the idea of arming teachers? I personally think that that is a terrible idea. I think that opens up the possibility of more violence if teachers have guns, especially because a lot of teachers aren't trained how to use a gun properly. And there's no reason that we really need our teachers to have guns. It's not going to make students feel safer. It's not going to make um, a situation where there is a threat any safer. I don't think arming teachers is something that's going to be successful at preventing gun violence. Okay, the next question is, does someone in your family have a gun license? And what do you think about it? So my dad does actually. He is a police officer, so he carries guns with him to work. Um, and it's something that I've grown up with my whole life. He's been a police officer for my entire life, so it feels super normal to me. But as I've gotten older and as I've gotten more educated about things like gun violence and gun laws, it definitely makes me a little bit more uncomfortable, because even though I know that my dad is trained in how to use one, I don't think that we necessarily need those in our house. I don't think that police, honestly, need that many guns. Um, and so it's a really complex topic. I am not sure how to feel about it, just because it's something that has been super normal for me growing up, but something that I know that is very much so not normal for other people. Okay, going on to the next topic. Have you taken part of some of the protests? Are there any in the state of Colorado? So yes, I did take part in some of those protests. There's lots of them going on in Colorado, and really in pretty much every city across the United States. And yeah, I did take part in some of them. It was, I've been paying attention. I've been watching videos of them, even if I haven't gone to all of them. Um, and so yeah. The next question is, do I have friends or family member who joined the protest? Yes, I went with a couple friends, and my sister. So that was pretty cool. I don't know if any of my family elsewhere in the United States has joined or not, but a lot of my friends definitely, if they haven't joined, they support the movement. The next question is, what do you think about the death of George Floyd? Do you think it's justified that all 4 policemen went to jail? Um, I mean, this is a super heavy topic. I think, based on the video, it's very clear that George Floyd should not have died, that he should not have been killed by those police officers. And even though not all four policemen were directly harming him, they all stood by and watched. And I think that act of complacency and that willingness to watch one of their coworkers kill a man that is more than enough reason for them to also go to jail. I think it's something that's really unfair in this country, something that is a deep structural problem. Um, the issues with police brutality and racism, and unfortunately, there's not an easy fix for it. It's not easy to fix the police systems or, to destroy and defund the police systems in favor of something better. It's not easy to understand why these racist prejudices are just so deeply ingrained into our society, but they are. And it's incredibly unfair, and it's something that we need to be consciously working on. Um, Always, and it's going to take a long time, but the way that we do that is by holding individuals accountable, by holding the system accountable for the wrongdoings that it has allowed. Okay, and so the last question is, do you think the protests might bring about change in the matter of violence against people with a different skin color? Um, that one, I really hope that these protests do start a change. I hope that we get some positive change out of this. Um, Police brutality and racism are obviously very, very big problems in the United States. And, former attempts at reform and whatever, it's just like it hasn't fixed anything. The systems are still there. And I think these protests are really a turning point. This feels different to me than any of the past protests that we have seen in the United States. And I think maybe it's just because I'm older, but it feels really different. I think more people are paying attention. I think more people are starting to understand what the Black Lives Matter movement stands for, and they're starting to agree with it. They're starting to see that these problems are real and they exist, and I think the protests are, at the very least, raising some awareness about all of those issues. Okay, and so that's all I have for you guys, but I hope this was really helpful, and that you guys can get some really good insight from this video. So, tschüss!